one region to the other with such big uptake and promising success. The Zero Carbon Readiness Framework that is now taking hold here in the work we do in the Middle East and beyond. So for those that maybe have not heard about the World Green Building Council, I see so many faces, maybe this is repetitive, but it doesn't matter, I have to say it, sorry, is the world's largest and most influential network leading the sustainable transition to decarbonized and resilient built environments worldwide. We're very proud to represent over 75 green building councils and 46,000 companies from around the world. And I'm here to represent also the network at COP28 because, and I hope it's the first time you hear me speak and you don't have to hear me speak much, but we're on a roll, we're in campaigning to make sure that the built environment is recognized as a sector that has the solutions to tackle the tipping point in global warming, humanitarian challenges, and economic uncertainties. Collectively, that's where our strength is. My voice is just a service to you. It's our network, your ability to connect the ambition with action, global with local, and in particularly policy with implementation. That is what the Green Building Councils do. That's what we're about. So we're hearing there's going to be tomorrow in WorldGBC welcomes a breakthrough announcement of a very high-level political announcement of countries committing to a vision of near zero and resiliency as a new normal. I think the call to action from WorldGBC would be zero carbon, and trying to drop the net also from the wording. The other day I was told by the CEO of the DART group to be more patient with industry. But yes, we're in that journey, and we have to see that local action on the ground is actually enabling those visions. As we set them out and we put them higher, that's how we get there. It's not by doing the minimum common denominator. So collectively at COP, it is really an action agenda where we're driving an energy efficient, regenerative, and just transition for everyone, everywhere. So what WorldGBC and GBCs do to embrace and advance this vision is to work with local and national governments to realign building policies for having an enabling policy environment for this vision, collaborating alongside industry, very important, with business leaders to leverage sustainable and innovative solutions with ambition. And of course, we know that this sector has been slow sometimes in embracing innovation, but the zero carbon agenda really demands us that we embrace the low-tech solutions and get them right, like energy efficiency, and accelerate all the innovation from the climate tech that can get us further faster. So this COP28 in Dubai is really at a moment where we always say that, but I do think it's kind of a pivot moment where it seems an important year also in particular for the Middle East and North Africa, because we have seen the far-reaching consequences of health and well-being affecting a lot of people throughout the region, and we know the future population growth here is going to be challenging and particularly putting pressures on what the built environment is going to look like. So this means there's going to be a large demand for more livable spaces. So today's session is all about identifying those potential pathways for development, rethinking how we design our built environment to follow whole life cycle principles and define the knowledge gaps so that we can create a roadmap when we have a path we follow to transition to that low embodied carbon, low carbon construction in the Middle East. Embodied carbon actually, or the upfront carbon, right, that is already in the materials that go into buildings, is a huge part of the decarbonization equation. And as you know, it's responsible for almost 11% of global greenhouse gas emissions. So WorldGBC's whole life carbon vision does highlight the importance of understanding both embodied carbon and operation. That's whole life thinking, yeah? It's around all the stages in the life cycle of a building. So in this framework, you're going to see that to achieving that total sector decarbonization by 2050, that is the goal, including key target dates, definitions for zero carbon operational and zero carbon whole life carbon buildings, we need to get right the key principles to get there in that roadmap. So we're going to continue to work collaboratively. That's how we get that roadmap right. We will continue to leverage the fantastic work of the MENA Zero Carbon Readiness Framework developed by the Middle East green building councils, regional partners, and net zero collaborators, building on the success that this framework has been having in Asia Pacific, and it's actually being used also in the Americas. Let me get a bit of a pause why this framework is important, because it actually, it's the first step to getting to a more robust commitment to developing zero carbon. It is like understanding what each actor, how they contribute, and how we can get to tweak the parts right. Because it does enable, in the conversations you're going to see, it enables that connectivity of the global vision with the local pathway, and to get industry professionals to share their knowledge with governments in a more streamlined fashion, context-based, locally based, appropriate, and homegrown approach. And that's what you're going to see here. So the GBCs in the Middle East are responding to the challenges and opportunities, and this will be, of course, enabling higher quality for people. To give a few examples of that, Emirates Green Building Council is leading the region in embodied carbon assessments and case studies. Jordan GBC, who is in the process of launching the net zero guidelines for Jordan. Egypt GBC launched this year the Tarshid, net zero certification. And after COP27, Dr. Salah, I think I saw him, there you go, front row. He has been a star in Egypt, how the uptake of, where we had little uptake of green building, now in Egypt there's a lot of activity and it's really promising. I heard that from several professionals. Yes. That's no small feat when you don't have government support. So it's changing, but we're on the journey. And today, DAR Group, or Sintali, they just changed their name. They haven't changed the logo, so I'm kidding. The DAR Group, Sintali, whose pavilion we're being hosted today, are also showcasing leadership, and they're taking action in their own portfolio, as well as working with clients to accelerate action. And I really enjoy Sintali, how their platform connects other brand houses from working in Lebanon, the Middle East, Europe, United States. It's really fantastic. And then you can see in action in companies also how those principles trickle and go to the outcomes, make them locally appropriate. Two more examples. ICD Brookfield, a leading sustainable building here in Dubai, is an excellent example to follow for inspiration. You can go and visit. It's really exceptional. And our partners, AESG, front row also, our long-standing partners, are delivering really a great thought leadership series alongside partnering with us. But check it out. It really has some thought leadership around achievements and advancing zero carbon in the UAE and beyond. So it's just an example of, it's not the high-level speech I'm giving. You're among peers that are actually taking action and making a huge difference here in the region and beyond. So beyond the conversations, do connect with people in the room, and my challenge would be that you leave this meeting by speaking to someone you hadn't met before. And so the call to action, as you know, today is day 6, COP28. And we must put all our efforts into making sure that this COP, the global stocktake, the realization of where we are in getting the Paris Agreement in action, is, let's say, leveraged to getting the countries to really deliver on what they committed for. Because it is the time to stand together with them, even though sometimes we don't get their support. But we need them to update their commitments, and it's all about showcasing that the solutions out there are going to be enabling the scale-up of the transition of the sector. And on this day, I think it's today, right? Today we're launching the open letter, or is it tomorrow? Oh, so thank God that I spotted this. So tomorrow, we're going to be spotting an open letter. You're going to see it. It's calling the negotiators, and all our green building councils have signed on that open letter, and over 300 companies, where we are asking negotiators to fully address the potential of buildings and assure them that our collective confidence that our network can and is building the transition together to deliver that decarbonized, regenerative, resilient future for all. So thank you so much, and I say my challenge to you is speak to someone here in this room today you haven't met, and take local action in supporting and being empathic that the journey, our individual journeys are all different, our local context may different, but the goal is one and the same because we're one and the same. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Christina. We are grateful to be hosted today. in this beautiful pavilion. I hope you're enjoying the chairs. They are actually very cool. I found them very interesting. But yes, we're grateful to be hosted today by DAR Group, and we have Belsam to speak to you a bit more and to give you some welcoming remarks.
Thank you, Natalie. Good morning, everyone. I'm thrilled to once again welcome the World Green Building Council, all of the Green Building Councils, their partners and stakeholders to the DAR Pavilion. For those of you that were lucky to be with us yesterday, we rebranded our mother company that is now called Sidara. And I invite each and every single one of you to visit the Sidara website and learn about our capabilities and our global presence worldwide. Our exceptionally insightful session today discusses the World Green Building Council's MENA Zero Carbon Readiness Framework, a framework that's designed to empower communities in addressing embodied carbon emissions of the built environment at the global scale. As a specific case study and showcase, the speakers will share key insights from UAE Zero Readiness Report. The Zero Carbon Readiness Framework is very much in line with DAR's own vision for supporting our clients in preparing for a net zero era by setting decarbonization pathways for different sectors, especially beginning with the built environment and including the hard-to-abate sectors, from aviation to mobility to healthcare, data centers, and others. Which is why DAR's long-term partnership with the World Green Building Council is so valuable and impactful for everyone. It allows us to drive forward advocacy for these critical issues. DAR has signed on the World Green Building Council Net Zero commitment since 2021 to getting our own operations to net zero by 2030. And just recently, we've committed to the UAE pledge for net zero as well. Thank you all again for joining us today. And thank you, the World Green Building Council, for this great session ahead. And welcome, everyone.
Thank you, Belsam, and thank you to DAR. We are so grateful for our growing MENA community and our network, and for all of the regional partners and collaborators who have helped us along the way and who have gotten us to this point and who we hope to continue the journey with. And I would like to invite Amira to introduce our new regional partner, Masdar City.
Thank you, Natalie. Good morning, everyone, and welcome. We met a lot. I know that I can see a lot of MENA faces in the room, and I know that we have others, so welcome. We met a lot this year. And first of all, I would like to share with you that we are so happy that our network is growing. And this year we have 4 new countries, so from 8 to 12. And I would like to welcome all our green building councils, our new green building councils from Iraq, from Saudi Arabia, from Qatar, and from Morocco. So welcome to the network. And as you got used to this, I know that we always meet and celebrate new regional partners. So please allow me today to welcome Masdar City as MENA regional partner. And I would like to introduce Chris. He will give us a welcome speech as well. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. It's great to see so many familiar faces here. I promise I do not have another mic on me. So it was 1 year ago that I shared a panel session at COP27 at Sharm el-Sheikh with Amira. And that's the first time I was introduced to her. And I'm delighted that exactly 1 year on from then, that we are sharing the same platform and sharing our journey. For Masdar City, the net zero journey, the zero carbon journey, call it whatever you like, the zero, we started a long time ago. We have done a lot, but we also recognize that we have a lot more to do. From our very first LEED Platinum building in Abu Dhabi, the Siemens building, right? We moved forward in every building. And today, we are the home of 5 net zero energy buildings, 2 completed, 2 under construction, and the 5th, which we announced yesterday, our net zero energy mosque at Masdar City. So yesterday I was doing my part. I was manning our stand at the Mubadala Pavilion. We have a small model of one of our net zero projects. And a student, a PhD student, started asking me questions. How do you build a sustainable city? And I talked about passive design, I talked active design, this is how you do PVs. And then she asked, well, what do you do before that? So I say, you have to have a great master plan, right? And we were blessed that we're working with a great team of co-workers at Masdar City. Yes, but how do you get started? How do you somehow get started? And I said, you need a great team. And I would say that in my 15 years at Masdar City, I've been blessed with working with some of the best people in the world. And what are the components of that team? Team is about integration, team is about collaboration. But how do you find these people? You find people with common values, values of sustainability. And to me personally, those values are trust, humility, someone else is listening, and empathy. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Chris, and thank you, Masdar City, for all the great work that you've done. And we are so grateful to be here with all of you to expand on our vision to build a sustainable built environment for everybody everywhere. And we are grateful to do that alongside our regional partners, our collaborators, our GBCs, and anybody involved in and around our network. And we're so grateful to have you be a part of our journey. And so I'm so grateful to introduce to you, actually, we're actually going to hear a bit from our regional partners, AESG, who have worked on a project on zero carbon buildings in the UAE. So I invite Katerina to speak on behalf of that.
Consistency, creativity, and communication. Those are the 3 things we need to advance net zero in the region. Those are the findings of the thought leadership piece that we have prepared that is targeting the topics of net zero in the built environment in UAE. Let me explain. We need consistency in order to make it a rule to implement net zero design and delivery in government and public sector projects. We have great examples, showcases. Masdar has just presented one, but still, this is not a rule across all the designs. We need creativity because we are faced with many challenges. Access to renewable power, we discussed it many times here in UAE, in the region. Access to low carbon materials, access to financing. In order to overcome these obstacles, we need creative solutions. And finally, communication. We need to communicate our demands to the government, hence the letter that is being organized by the World Green Building Council. We also need to communicate between ourselves across the value chain, the architects, consultants, the clients, right, in order to come up with new way how to build buildings. I'm a partner and global director for strategy and advisory in AESG. We are an engineering consultancy. We deliver sustainability environmental services, but also comprehensive sustainable engineering approach for our clients. And I proudly say that the clients that we work with, they really want to make this happen, because why otherwise they would engage an engineering consultancy to do this work? And we have come together as a team to create the thought leadership piece to help us to dig a little bit more into what we need to do specifically in UAE. We have just released one of the papers. There are 4 of them. One that is dedicated to government. We have another one that is specifically for private sector. One that will be tackling enablers, and one that will be tackling innovative solutions. And our local lead for advisory, Tamara Bajic, will be presenting to you details, takeaways from this work. And I really look forward to engaging with you and also taking this to the local authorities, local actors here in UAE, because that's what we would like to do at the beginning of next year. And that's a sign that I should hand it over. Tamara, please, it's over to you.
All right, I will have to be. Amazing. Exactly 2 years ago, I was at this site when when actually Expo was launched for the first time. And I was talking to one of the experts in our field, and he told me something that got me thinking ever since. And he told me something that really changed the way I think about sustainability in a built environment. It takes 20 companies and more than hundreds of people to build one single building. And if we are thinking about sustainable buildings, it takes more than hundreds of people with the right goal, building that building in the right environment that will enable that goal to happen. The slogan of COP28 is Unite, Act, and Deliver. Together with WorldGBC, we have united to see how the UAE is acting and delivering. As Katerina mentioned, we designed this thought leadership piece. We interviewed more than 20 people in this market who really had something to say about how buildings are being designed, how communities are being developed here. These thought leadership pieces, they have 4 series, as mentioned. The first one is issued about what government is doing. The second one is about what private sector is doing, what private sector is contributing. And then we have the 2 more focused ones that are about sustainable design, about innovative technologies, about what is happening. But I will take today a bit of a different approach, and I will take an approach of what is that process to actually develop a building. And that process is planning, constructing, and actually operating a net zero building. When we look at from the planning perspective, government is really doing a lot since ages, and we started developing green building codes, starting from Al-Safat, Estidama, Barjil in Ras Al Khaimah. And all of these building codes have sustainability criteria within. And this is very much supported by the UAE financing framework. We have green bonds, we have sukuk to really enable all of this happening. But that is what government is doing. Government is providing a guidance, but it's up to private sector companies to actually implement this guidance and to decide how they want to design their own buildings. And what we are seeing throughout these interviews in our market, we are seeing that private sector companies are taking it building by building. This is something that has been happening for quite some time now, looking at different certifications, LEED, International Living Future Institute, and so on. But they're also taking a step further and designing their own sustainability design guidelines. For me, that was very interesting because it takes us to the actual examples of how these guidelines are being implemented. And we have mentioned Masdar, there is ICD Brookfield Place. There are many, many different examples of the net zero buildings. What private sector is doing, they're starting to look from the life cycle perspective and looking at what is that cost per unit of how am I currently designing, comparing it to what will be that green premium of the sustainable design and what will take me to the net zero. And that green premium is actually used as a tool to see how far we are from making it easy to design net zero buildings. When we come to that is the planning part, right? When we come to the actual construction, we are talking about a couple of key elements here, and we are talking about materials mainly, and green construction equipment. When we're talking about materials, we're usually talking about cement, steel, aluminium. There is a great progress that has been made in EGA has been launching, EGA Emirates Green Aluminium has been launching the recycling facility, and as well A-Cube & Co. together with Emirates Steel, they have been launching a facility to produce green concrete. And these are the really steps forward, and these are the things that we should be working more and more towards to producing these green materials locally and making sure that they are actually available. It's really important to focus on cement. If there is a very interesting information that I found that UAE is the second largest producer of cement in GCC region, but when we look at it from what is the carbon footprint of that cement per capita, we are actually the best one there, despite the low population that we have. So we should really take a step forward and working on local production of the low carbon material and implementing this across our projects and ensuring that it's actually implemented and transparently communicated from the developer downstream to the construction as well. When we are talking about operation, and here I will just be very, very brief. When we are talking about operation of the buildings, we are talking about mainly electricity, cooling, fuel, waste, and water. In the UAE, we have many energy efficiency strategies and energy efficiency tools that have been implemented in the region. These tools are helping us retrofit the buildings that are not performing well. These tools are establishment of super ESCO companies who are launching the ESCO market, and ESCO market is getting stronger and stronger, supported by energy performance contracting to really enable all of this happening. We also have to mention the big issue that is happening in the region, and that is how do we tackle waste? And you have seen that ministry is really working towards drafting the right pathway of how to really reduce the waste impact. But also a lot of different waste management companies have been launching waste to energy facilities, and just yesterday BIA has announced waste to hydrogen facility being developed. And these are the things that we should showcase more and more, and we should work towards too. I will end with this and just say that there are a couple of things that we see as an opportunity and that are coming out from our research paper. These opportunities are making these codes, building codes more stringent, and making the implementation of these codes and compliance really stringent, so the codes are being implemented and they're reaching the best performing states. Also, what is mentioned, local producing of the low carbon material. Adopting renewable energy, one of the biggest things in the UAE that we should look at closely. And managing our data better. Data decision making is really important, so we can make informed decisions of how we can actually reduce the carbon footprint. Transparency between the design and the actual implementation is a key here. The transparency from the building developers and from the community developers to the contractors, and making sure that these goals are being translated, understood, and that are actually implemented, and that when the new requirements and new solutions in the market come out, they're really adopted, and they're adopted in the project, and they're tested, and this is how we can scale up the sustainable solutions. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Tamara, and thank you, AESG. Last year, right after COP27, we had a vision to change our meetings from linear to circular. So we met a lot. We had lots of workshops to explore how the Net Zero Readiness Framework or the Zero Carbon Readiness Framework should look like in MENA region. And the outcome was amazing. This is similar to what happened with AESG. They came and told us, let's have a thought leadership piece about the UAE. This session is because of A-Cube & Co. Amr came to us and he said, let's explore the embodied carbon and let's see how we can have low carbon materials in buildings. So it's about collaboration. It's about always coming up with new ideas. We also have a very amazing project with GBC, Egypt GBC, Lebanon GBC, and DAR, which is a green school initiative. So we can, because the region, what we found so special about us is focusing on youth and community engagement and also social and spatial equity. So again, I think now it's time, I skipped a lot of slides because it's time to go from linear to circular. Let's start our embodied carbon workshop, which is structured and organized by Emirates Green Building Council and A-Cube & Co. So handing over to Abdul Latif.
Assalamu alaikum and good morning. Thank you very much for coming to this session. And because of the very short time we have, so I'm going to be straight to the point. So what we're going to do, we'll have a discussion amongst all of the audience. I just need first to welcome our special guest who will have special questions being asked during this session. So Amr Nader, A-Cube & Co CEO, and he's also helping me in this session. Actually, it's the idea of Amr for this session, so thank you, Amr. Also, we have Adrian Catchpole from SEPSI President with us. And Matthew Black, WorldGBC Climate Action Manager. And Ghina Anan, is Ghina Anan here? Okay, she's not here. All right. So I would like first to give Amr 5 minutes only. Okay, just to give us an introduction and overview about this session, what we are trying to do in this session. So Amr.
Thank you very much, and thanks for everyone, and thanks for mentioning. The building part is 35% of the total. The building part is 35% of the total emissions globally. And this is not only the problem, this is only one of the problems. The building part is a major integral part of the city itself. It impacts a lot of carbon emission and methane emission from waste management around it, and this is hence the life cycle assessment approach. We are talking about Brockfield, a great tower in UAE. The problem of Brockfield is not the tower itself, it's the area around the tower. How you design a tower within a city makes a great impact, and hence again the life cycle assessment. From a life cycle assessment point of view, cement, steel, glass and other building material comes before having the building in your planning cycle. If we do not plan to have a green material, yesterday there was, or today there is the announcement in the blue zone for the green purchase from governments. There is a breakthrough for buildings, there is a breakthrough for cement and concrete, and there was a breakthrough for steel yesterday or the day before. So this is a future for having green buildings. Operation of the building is great. We have been doing a great job on that, but it impacts only 50% of the building life cycle emission, if not less. The point is before that, and the only way to do that is to produce this material for developers to be able to buy it. And this is the next problem. Specifiers and architects and concrete people are far away from material people. I was attending a lot of concrete meetings recently, and the concrete standards is, I would say, at least 20 years behind cement and other material standards. Why? Because it's safety of people, I fully agree, but there has been the use of green material since a very, very long time. It's not new. Some two mixed cements and other materials that have those chances have been used since 50s, even before that, when they were the only material available at the time. And we are building sustainable buildings with them. And there is a lot of buildings that was built with OPC and very strong steel that has fallen down in the recent earthquakes. We have seen that because it's a design issue. It's not a material issue. So again, we need to be more bolder while designing. We need to be more scientific. We need to be more knowledgeable about material, and we need to consider zero material or net zero material on the planning phase of a building before we can call it a zero building. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Amr. Thank you. Okay. When we organized this session, and we of course we invited everyone to attend, but we had targeted some of our members and collaborators and MENA network also partners to have a mix of manufacturers, consultants, and developers. Okay, and I see in this room this mix is already there. So we have Saint-Gobain, Nada Shami from Saint-Gobain representing the manufacturers. We have Katrina, Dr. Ali Amiri from Aegis, Ghaith from Arup representing the consultant part, and then we have Yanis and Chris representing the developer side. So we want to engage everyone in this session and discussion. Again, I have very limited time, so I really appreciate if you just answer direct to the point and to give the opportunity for others. So I'll start with the first question. But this question is again to Amr. So can you highlight the impact of cement, steel, and glass on carbon footprint? I know you've mentioned them, but can you give us some more insights on that, please?
There are standards for the carbon footprint. We have the concrete amount of carbon per meter cube of concrete. We have the cement amount of carbon kilogram per ton of cement. We have the same for glass. We have the same for steel. There is no specific green factor globally that is mentioned for each material, but there are numbers that we refer to. For example, for cement, it's 470 kilogram CO2 per ton of cement. This is a European benchmark, and this is the lowest number. Same as for steel, I think the number is around 500 something. For glass, the number is around 400 per ton or 300 per ton. For concrete, we have 350, 250, and we have for a building, and this is what's not mentioned, and this is where the problem lies. We don't have a meter cube carbon footprint, and none of the building standards, whether it's edge, whatever you name it, all of them does not have any carbon specific footprint of a plant, of a building being built. Zero. None of them. The only one was a new lead, which is only asking to say, mention how much carbon, if you know, in the material you are using, and that's it. So until we have that standard of the carbon footprint of a building, everything we do up in the air. And everything we call zero or net zero, with all due respect to all net zero buildings, is not zero at all and not related to zero. So back to numbers, very specific. These materials represent around, to be very specific, 62% of the carbon footprint of the building. Cement represents 40% of those 62%. Steel represents 25%. Glass, aluminium, and other material represent the remaining. So these are the numbers we need to look at if we want to make a zero building actually.
Thank you. Yes. Sure.
Morning. I'm Raji, the chair of the Regional Green Building Council. On this topic, there are some debates that are coming up now. If I'm producing my steel in Saudi and then I'm getting it to Dubai, if I take the carbon emissions here, I might be double accounting for the carbon that was calculated in Saudi.
Thank you very much. And this is why it's life cycle assessment. Transportation, scope 3 is included. And this is why in UAE, which is, I'm sad to say, that what we call green concrete, and we think that we have solved that, is absolutely not green. We are bringing that slag from a non-green steel making in India, and we are transporting it all the way to UAE and again transporting it locally on ground. So this is completely not green concrete. If we may take the carbon footprint of that concrete, most probably it's higher in CO2 if we made it with OPC produced in UAE. So it's not green concrete, absolutely not green. Has nothing to do with green concrete, just to make it very clear. Thank you.
Yeah, you're making bold statements, Sami. Thank you, thank you. I appreciate that, Nouri. Thank you. I have a question to the audience. So the first question to the audience. And this is more to the manufacturers, but of course everyone is welcome to join. So the question is, how can manufacturers quickly or promptly implement changes to reduce embedded carbon without compromising structural integrity? Any volunteer to answer? Otherwise, I will pick. Except you're not allowed to answer. Any volunteer? 1, 2, 3. Nada. You represent the manufacturing side, so appreciate your comments.
So I'm going to talk from the Saint-Gobain point of view. So we don't manufacture concrete or steel, but we do glass, we do insulation, gypsum, and mortars, which are the bread and butter of the construction. So for Saint-Gobain, it's very important to have a product transparency roadmap. And this is why today we have our target is to have, by 2030, all of our product and system having an LCA. And we have a very strict roadmap for EPDs. And this is how we know the impact of our solutions on the life cycle assessment of a building. So what do? We have our existing offering and we have also our new innovation. So we have done a process where we embed sustainability at early design. So whenever we're thinking about a new solution, we do a life cycle assessment and we see what kind of features we can change without tackling the technical, without changing whatever technical property the product must give, whether it is insulation properties or hydrothermal property or whatever property it is. How can we increase the recycling content, for example? How can we do recycling production? How do we do with our process in order to limit the energy consumption? There are so many things we can do so that the life cycle assessment of our product can be reduced without even, and sometimes we are even having better performances. Whenever we manufacture mortars, for example, waterproofing, etc., we have a lot of waste materials today that we can use that are reducing the carbon footprint without having an impact on the performance. So there are a lot of things that we can do, making sure that the performances are there, but a lot of opportunities to work on. And without a life cycle assessment at early design stage, we cannot do anything. We have to think sustainability from the concept, from the design stage. And working with the different, a key stakeholder of the chain is also very important. We talk about waste, so we talked about waste today. For example, in our manufacturing plant, gypsum manufacturing plant, we have today a recycling plant. But we need also gypsum generator, waste generator. So we need to work with contractor. We need to work with, clients that have these waste in order to be able to take it in a way that we can reintroduce it in our, production. So having to work with all the manufacturers is also a challenge, and yeah, we need to work together to be able to have low embodied carbon product.
Thank you very much. Any other comment from anyone? Yes, Katrina.
I have a comment and a call to action, and it's something that I've been mentioning for a while. And everyone knows this issue, right, of carbon emission factors. When we do the life cycle analysis, when we do any type of study for clients in the region, we don't have the local factors. we are all using the same software, the same databases that are very often using factors from UK, from elsewhere in the world, wherever they are available. And then, okay, we do the interviews, we try to localize this as much as possible. But it is true, we don't have local emission factors, right? So the work for us as an industry is to come together and produce localized emission factors that everyone then can use, which will improve the quality of our analysis. And it will address what was just mentioned by you as well. How do we compare if a product is procured locally here in UAE or in Saudi, and what is better in terms of carbon emissions? Because maybe a product that is produced in Saudi, I have to say, has local carbon emissions, and if you organize the right way of transport, maybe it will be better, who knows, right? So we really have to be able to compare what the situation is, and the only way how to go about it is to create a database of emission factors. So it's an opportunity for a collaboration. It's an opportunity for a small project. From our side, we have started with something more modest. We are looking at government recommendations, private sector recommendations, but the next level is to go to this level of analysis and pull the data from your product, Saint-Gobain, your products, Amra, right? And I think that will really improve for our clients the delivery of the services that we are offering to them. I'm happy to hear what are the comments from the others.
Thank you, Katrina. Yeah, one more. Can you introduce yourself?
Hello, Duncan Price, Global Head of Sustainability at Bureau Happold. I think it's also really important there's collaboration up and down the supply chain on data and transparency of information. So we're founding members of Concrete Zero with Climate Group, and we're members of Steel Zero as well. I think what's really powerful about those initiatives is you've got developers, investors, designers, engineers, contractors, suppliers all working together to have a common goal on the embodied carbon intensity of different materials. But to support the point, I think we need much, much better data in the MENA region, because a lot of those data sets are dominated by Europe, UK, and so on. So it's a bit of a call for action for others to get involved with those programs.
Thank you very much. Amr.
Just one point regarding the standards. Actually, this is changing. There is a new standard coming up, which is a combination of SBTi, GRI, and other standards that has been in the market. And there is a statement, actually, a certificate that says the CO2, but no one uses it, which is a EPD and this is older than sustainability. This is way too old, but no one is using it. And the database for it has a lot of problems because people doing EPDs were not doing it LCA properly in many cases. But once carbon becomes a commodity, which is happening in the next 2 years, and it becomes money, then those certificates will be straightened out immediately, automatically, and everybody will have access to data.
Thank you. Adrian, I saw you.
Hi everyone. I'd just like to take that point a little bit further. We've been talking a lot about the embodied carbon in the construction materials, but I think the percentage of embodied carbon in the mechanical and electrical products and materials is much higher. That you guys are doing some terrific work on that. I was at Harriet Watt yesterday, and they're doing bricks that are now with a 95% reduction. So you guys are doing great. The problem we're finding at SIBSI and at the mechanical electrical engineers is that we make pretty much everything from steel and plastic, or metal and plastic, which is much more difficult. So the Steel Zero initiative is fantastic. We have to crack that, and in order to get through that process, the temperatures involved are so much more. So we're having a real problem with EPDs coming out of manufacturers because they're complex, they're expensive to produce and everything. So what SIBSI's research and technical teams have been doing is a document, TM65, which Balsam, who spoke earlier, has been on the working group, so we're very grateful to her. So SIBSI has got the only methodology for calculating the embodied carbon of products, of materials, of building services equipment, and that's to bridge the gap because we can't get the information. So my call would be to the manufacturers of building services equipment. Appreciate it's a really tough gig, but we've got to start bridging that gap so that we can properly evaluate. Once we can properly evaluate, then it becomes easier to reduce. At the moment, we're focusing on reducing the quantities rather than the percentages to try and bridge that gap.
Thank you, Adrian. So the conclusion for the first question was, and please tell me if I'm wrong, that yes, we can do it. So the second question is, how can technology and innovation be rapidly deployed to reduce the carbon footprint of the manufacturing process? Any suggestion? I know you're all experts, so please.
Not answering, I'm saying that it was kind of captured in the first, but they will have to look at it holistically. Technology, AI, etc. I know Saint-Gobain, they're having an AI lab, and so I think that's part of the manufacturing process to adopt the new technologies, nanotechnology materials to reduce the carbon footprint. And these are, once I have the microphone, these are relative terms, so we need to be a bit careful when we say there is no green concrete. Green concrete is a relative term, these materials, because it could, the definition could vary from one location to another, from one project to another. So the definition of green concrete essentially is to reduce its carbon footprint as low as you can in the given location. Anyway, back to the question, I think it was kind of captured in the first question on manufacturers.
Thank you, Dr. Ali. And yeah.
Hi, good morning, everyone. My name's Lara from Benchmark GenSuite. I'm going to speak, because we're talking about regulations and we're talking about solutions, I'm going to speak from the point of data collection so that you're able to know how effective your, whatever technology you're implementing is in reducing, in fact, your carbon emissions. We're a digital solutions platform, and from a regulation, well, from a reporting perspective, we enable you to see from the start of your project where you're implementing new technology or you're wanting to look at your existing carbon emissions. We're able to track the lifetime of that. And I think from a data collection standpoint, that's the most important thing, because if you don't know what data you have, what your carbon emissions landscape is looking for, how, in fact, do you know how effective it is? So I think it's also very important to have the right system in place to allow you to benchmark where you are, and then to see what your journey is looking like as you implement the different types of technology, to see, is it cost effective? Does it make sense? I really haven't heard much of talk about data collection here, which for me is very, very critical in this journey.
Thank you for your comment. Yeah, it's indeed important. And I think everyone is keen to get data. We just have a call of action to some data, but that's specific to the materials. Yeah. Thank you. Raif.
Thank you. I think I would just re-emphasize on what's said, especially around the definition of the methodology. I don't think we have a single methodology for quantifying embodied carbon in a systematic way, and in a way that then allows us to do comparisons, right? We have many methodologies, but we don't have a single one. So we think we should have a single definition that becomes an industry-wide definition, and then the methodology that everybody can follow consistently, so we can do the sensible comparative analysis. And then the other point around benchmarks, I think that's crucial. And as was said, we always all struggle to find the right carbon emission factors that are relevant to specific geographies and specific supply chains. And so I think one of the things we're doing at Arab, we have been doing for about 2 years now, is we do a whole life carbon assessment on every building project we do, regardless of whether the client asks for this or not. And that does include the mechanical systems, because I agree with what was said, that is quite an important component of buildings. So we're doing that anyway, and we have about a database for about 1,000 buildings from across the world. And we think everybody needs to be doing that, and then ultimately we need to pool all this data from across the industry into a single platform that everybody can have access to, and then think collectively as market and industry players we can help with the transition. And I think the other point I'll add is around treating carbon just like we have been treating energy for a couple of decades at least. So every time we design a building today, and we have been doing this for at least 15, 20 years, we talk about reducing energy. We do energy modeling, and we do look at passive and active measures of reducing energy consumption, right? And we quantify those, and we have what's called energy use intensity. We need to do exactly the same, I think, with carbon. And that, I think, will help us, again, systematically transform the industry towards better outcomes on the carbon emissions.
Thank you, Ghaith. Well, I asked a question, and then the answers answer all the other questions that I've prepared. So we're done? Okay. But back to manufacturing and materials. Yeah.
I have one comment based on what was said. The benchmark Gen Suite, right? It's a very important point about the data gathering. And this is more a comment for the clients or developers when you scope the RFPs. I don't think there is enough time and resources allocated to getting the right data in. So we end up really doing whatever is the cheapest, easiest way, right? And that's why we go to the default values that are already available. So really, back to my original point, if you really want to have a good assessment done for you, it needs to be scoped properly in the RFP so that you really challenge the consultant and you give them sufficient resources to find out the information for you. Or we come together, we pool our resources, everyone contributes, and we get something, a database that really works for everyone, right? But this is our pain point right now. We all know how to do a life cycle assessment, right? We all know how to do a strategy implementation plan. But the data, we are not paid sufficiently to make it more accurate for you. Demand it, allocate time and resources to it, and then it can happen.
Thank you, Katrina. So back to the materials or the construction materials and other related materials. And it seems we have here an argument or a debate about what is green, what is not green, and how we define properly what is a green or sustainable material. And then we've heard that we can improve our production process at the plant, and this will reduce the carbon footprint and reduce the energy use, etc., and resources use also, without the material itself. But also there are other ways where you change or you do some modifications to the material, again, to reduce the carbon footprint, energy consumption, resources consumption. And I think we should look at both, but maybe start with the low-hanging fruit. For me, I think the tackling the process itself is the low-hanging fruit. So knowing that we have those materials available, or at least coming into the market, what are the barriers to adopt these materials or to use these materials? Why we still hear that some clients, let me say, some clients saying we have difficulties in finding, again, I'll just use the green materials for our projects. And manufacturers say we have the green materials. So what's going on?
Specifiers. This is a problem. As Katrina said, the projects are not well paid enough to define the green material, so we are in a hurry to get things done. So we go with what we know, with what we want, with what's easy, and with what's safe. And none of them are sustainable, because if we kept doing what we are doing, definitely we are not going to transit to net zero. It's called net zero transition. Transition means transformation. Transformation means change. So we need to do things differently. The first thing we need to do is to try, if we are keen, and this is again when VCMs and CCMs carbon markets are there, when the green building will cost differently from the non-green building, everybody will be forced to do it. Honestly, the problem has been clear from COP25, when it was mentioned whether it's a stick or the carrot, and we kept on for 3 years derailing behind the stick or the carrot and trying to prove that humanity will do the right thing on their own. And obviously we don't. We simply need rules, very strict, specific rules that are monetary bounded to make things in the right direction, or the direction we think it's right. Because we might be proven wrong 15, 20 years down the lane. But for now, carbon markets will change the price of green buildings completely, will change the price of producing non-green and green material, and will make production of green material viable for everyone. So this will be the direction, and it will be paid for enough, because it will cost more if you don't do it.
Okay, thank you. Yes. Yeah, Alan, you have a comment. Yeah, تفضلي.
Hello everyone, good morning. I'm Hoda Ibrahim from Egypt GBC. Actually, I have been working deeply with manufacturers for more than 10 years, and the gap is, it's just lack of awareness among the consultant and stakeholders, but all our region definitely have environmentally friendly products, even locally or imported, because most of the products imported from Europe or USA. So even in UAE and Saudi Arabia and Egypt recently, they have environmentally friendly products. They have HPDs, reach optimization, EBD, even EBD optimization now. It's released recently and most of the products. So it's just the specification. Yes, it's in building material. I'm deeply working on that. Yes, maybe in cement. You are only talking, yes. If we are talking, yeah, but if we are talking deeply in cement, but in green project, in green, yes, in green project, it's not only cement or glass. Exactly, but the other embodied carbon, extremely, you have, like steel, for example. No. Maybe, yes. Exactly, but we are keep doing that. We are keep doing that in all, with all manufacturers. We are.
Can I interrupt you? I like the discussion and debate. That's healthy in my opinion. But for the time limitations I have to end this. But thank you very much, Huda, for your insights and your input. And you talked about the transitioning to that. So I want to ask Matt, because you look at probably the holistic view. So can the construction industry achieve rapid carbon neutrality? And what is the time for that? Well, I know you're not going to give me a time, but I mean, do you think this is a long, journey, short, mid?
Yeah, thank you very much. Hi, everyone. I think it's short and long. So WorldGBC, linked to this zero carbon readiness framework that the MENA GBCs have been working on, we have a whole low carbon vision that's been out for a few years now. And that sets out a pretty broad but global framework for achieving our North Star goal of total sector decarbonization. And that has key targets for 2030, so the short term for building that transition, but also looking ahead towards 2050. And sort of in relation to what we've been discussing here today in terms of the embodied carbon side of things, this is increasingly more important as we become more proficient at dealing with the operational side of things through energy efficiency measures, through electrification of buildings. The relevant impacts of embodied carbon becomes greater. So in terms of embodied carbon, the whole low carbon vision sets out a few broad principles for people to help inform their action around embodied carbon. The first is to prevent. So the best way to reduce embodied carbon is by not incurring it in the first place. So seeking to reuse or renovate or retrofit existing buildings rather than developing a new building. But if you do have to develop a new building, then you must reduce and optimize. So make sure, as many of the people here today have mentioned, that all stakeholders are collaborating from the beginning of a project's inception to maximize efficiencies in design, reducing overall material usage, but making sure they're using low carbon materials, etc. But also that they should plan for the future. So not just the initial construction, but also the whole life cycle of that building. Make sure that you're implementing circular economy principles so that when you do go to retrofit that building further down the line, that is easier to do, to replace systems, not just facades or materials. And finally, if it's appropriate for your entity or for your building, that at the point of project completion that you may choose to compensate or offset any residual upfront emissions. So that's pretty broad, but you were saying, what's the timeline? How are we building that transition? You know, by 2030, we need leaders to go further and faster than mainstream actors. As many people in the room today have highlighted, they need to show what is possible and send the relevant demand signals to industry, to material suppliers, to construction companies that there is demand for low carbon buildings and low embodied carbon materials, and etc. And I think that's really why the MENA Zero Carbon Readiness Framework is sort of an evolution of this whole low carbon vision, bringing that global perspective down to a regional to regional relevance in terms of the actions and the policies that can influence that. So I think really just another shout out to all of the MENA Green Building Councils for really showcasing what collaboration, that collaboration together can produce.
Thank you, Matt. I think I only have 7 minutes, is it, or more? More? I can take 10, 15. Wow, cool, good. Okay. Since I have some little more time, I can ask probably 1 or 2 more questions. Adrian touched upon the embedded carbon in the mechanical systems, and we have with us Ghina Anan, ASHE Distinguished Lecturer, and I would like to hear from you, what are the MEP system carbon contributions to a building whole life carbon impact? Can you give us some insight?
Thank you so much. It's great to be here and seeing all these amazing faces, and thank you, Amira, for inviting me. So I'm decarbonization business lead for Stantec. I'm based in Ottawa. I'm currently leading 2 ASHE decarbonization standards that will be published early next year. The first one speaks to the whole life carbon of MEP systems, and its high-level methodology approach that gives you like steps to reach your targets, especially that over the years we have been working with the envelope side of things. We haven't been touching on the MEP systems. However, if you come to think about the replacement factor, which is multiple times throughout the 60-year life cycle, and if you come to think about the weight and the impact when it comes to the envelope, which we put it only at the original state of the building, that's really significant. The other guideline is actually touched, I think, by one of the audience here, which is the TM65. So ASHE came together with SIPSI, and we put together a specific step-by-step factor that looks into the MEP systems. Now, you will ask me about, what if the market does not have specific EPDs or environmental product declaration when it comes to HVAC systems? And we all know that HVAC systems have a lot of parts. So we need to look at each single part that come together and put an HVAC system. This is what TM65 and ASHE is currently doing. So we have those carbon factors put together should you not have available information. And the reason we're trying to do that is to compare apple to apple and be able to actually quantify things and compare projects together. I'm not saying it's a perfect case scenario. I definitely agree with you. There's a hustle throughout the whole process, but the only thing that we are trying to do with ASHE and other approaches is to educate. Educating the manufacturer, educating the clients, educating all stakeholders throughout the whole process, ensuring that they know that it's not only operational carbon that we need to work with. We have been doing that for 50 years. Now it's time to really focus on the embodied carbon and take it holistically and not missing any part of the puzzle. You ask another question regarding the construction. I'll quickly touch on it. I'm working closely with contractors, and some contractors are not considering modular construction or like 3D. But what they are doing is that they're looking at their construction system machines and they're electrifying it. So the least we can do is making sure that our equipment that we are using, aside from the material quantity, aside from the material types, we're electrifying those systems that are working for years and years on site to ensure that our systems and buildings are up. And I'm more than happy to connect with any of you, and those decarbonization guidelines will be available for free the first Q1 of next year. And thank you all for having me.
Thank you, Rena. Thank you. Yes, Adrian.
Sorry, thanks. Thanks for that. Just a point of reference, which I meant to say earlier. But so CIBSI's TM65 was developed in the UK for the UK. So it's using the UK carbon factors. So a point one of our colleagues here was making about carbon factors and the relevance of them. So when we did TM65, that worked, and it worked in. So we do, but there's been demand globally to roll that out for other regions. So we've done Australia, New Zealand. We're pleased to be working with ASHRAE on North America, and I'm delighted that we've got one through for UAE, which we're very much hoping to launch this week to coincide. So you will have in UAE, you will have your own standards, your own relevant carbon factors, so that's readily available right now.
Thank you, Adrian. So construction material, the material itself, the process of making the material, and then the process of using the material when we make the building and then operating the building. So I'm overwhelmed. I mean, so many things to do. I'm not sure at the moment what we need to do next. So I want to ask the audience, but please, very, very short sentences. What shall we do next? What is your first priority? Yes. Iman from WorldGBC.
Yes, hello everyone, thank you. So I'm gonna speak, first of all, I'm gonna ask, is there anyone who's representing a governmental entity? No, right? So yeah, I'm gonna speak about, no. Yes, so I'm gonna speak about an experience in Jordan, and it's a good one. First of all, we have standards and specifications association in Jordan, which is called in Arabic مؤسسة المواصفات والمقاييس, if you know it. So this is working on publishing like certificates for health safety standards and for products that align with these standards. Recently, they are studying involvement of green standards. So now all materials are going to be evaluated for compliance with green standards. It's more like an environmental product declaration certificate for these materials or products, but from local perspective. And that's amazing. If this is could be done in all governmental entities in all countries, that gonna is the way to, you will not need to do a life cycle assessment for the products or materials after that. That will all you need that to get that certificate for these products or materials, just to know if this is complying with your requirements in your building or not. So I would encourage this step. So the government has an important steps to take just to ease the way, and to help consultants. I'm a consultant at the end of the day, so to help consultants to make their decisions in the right way. That's it.
Thank you. Yes.
Thank you. Maybe I'm the least experienced in this area, but all what I can say that we are, again, maybe I'm always repeating this statement each time, that we are less than 7 years from 2030. We are off track. So I believe if there is a transition that is going to happen and to stay on track or to go back on track, I think we cannot wait each others. The government to wait for the developer, and the developer to wait for the manufacturer and the customer, because everyone is waiting for each others. And I believe everyone should be the change they would like to see in others. This is a statement we have always been hearing since we were kids. So this is the time for solidarity. If we want to bring those slogans into action, I think this is the time. And if you want to do something, again, another slogan, which is you cannot manage what you don't measure. But please ensure within your area, your limited area, when you measure, accuracy and integrity, and things will be solved. I think that's simple.
Thank you very much. Amr.
Just one clarification. All my earlier messages on embodied carbons and standards and concrete are referring to global problem. I'm not talking about Middle East. So it's not UAE, Egypt as concrete standards that are 10 years behind cement standards. This was in UK. So it's not a Middle East problem. It's a global issue. This is one. What to do? We need to measure before we design. And we design with one target, which is minimum possible carbon. Call it green, call it light green, call it whatever. It's minimum possible carbon.
Thank you, Amr. Any suggestions? What do we need to do next? Dr. Ali.
I think from design point of view and consultancy point of view, with everything that is available to us, the guidelines, the materials, I think we as consultants also have the duty to get out of our comfort zone. Our structural engineers, I think MEP guys have done a great job. They're still penetrating their ducts through our columns, but still, in terms of designing more efficient buildings, they've gone a long way. But we, from a structure point of view, should really improve. It's easy to design a tower with a core wall with the same thickness, go all the way to the top with a concrete grade of C60, but do we need that? It's easier to design, it's faster to design, but perhaps we need to reduce that thickness. We need to reduce the concrete, the cement content. Maybe we should specify concrete mixes with additives, super plasticizers to give that flow to the concrete to reduce its carbon and less cement. So I think we also, as speaking for the consultants, we also carry a responsibility to get out of our comfort zone and try to do things differently, because whatever these guys do, end of the day, we need to design and specify that. And if we don't do that, and embodied carbon is an easier conversation compared to operational carbon, because operational carbon is always about ROIs, spend a bit more now, you will save later. Embodied carbon is about immediate saving upfront. We can remove those perimeter edge beams, for example. We can reduce the thickness of the concrete. So there are things that we can do, and we are trying to do. I think now all the consultants, we embedded the carbon calculators in our Revit model, so our structure engineers, as they build the model, they can see the carbon footprint building up for their design. And I'm really pleased to see that MEP equipment are now, the information is coming through. We will put the same pressure in our MEP designers. And yeah, I think now that everything is set, next thing is for the consultants to also get out of their comfort zone.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ali. I much appreciate your comment, and again being to say that consultants have responsibilities. Okay, I've been waved by so many people saying "Khalas, finish, stop." Okay, so thank you very much for everyone attending and for everyone who made comments, suggestions, ideas. I wish we had more time because the topic is not simple just to cover it in less than an hour. But I want to end firstly by thanking WorldGBC, MENA Network, Amira, Natalie for organizing this, and for Dar Al-Handasah hosting us, and then for our industry partners, collaborators, Net Zero collaborators, our Emirates GBC members and industry partners for being here and supporting us. And one final thing, as Emirates GBC, we we've been receiving a lot of calls or inquiries from our members saying we need to do something about embedded carbon, okay, and about APDs, etc. So this is a call from, today to all our members and also our partners and GBCs. We want to do something. I know we've started something in the past but never continued. But we want to do something this time seriously. So I very much appreciate and invite everyone to join us. After we finish COP and we get relaxed for some time, let's prepare for next year. So thank you very much again and have a nice day.